So they are saying it outright that we as citizens must now carry proof that we are citizens. That's going to be their approach going forward, is just to filter all of the people in the United States through their eyes. We are all going to have to subject ourselves to some test, and maybe repeatedly, because I mean they won't keep track of where we are. It's just going to be an ongoing filtering where we just continuously have to prove who we are. I mean, is Congress going to act? Congress people, they have families. They're going to get ID'd too. So anyway, she says, she expands on what Gnome said yesterday. Gnome said that we could be ID'd. This one, Trisha McLaughlin, who's a thief, she is here saying that, so she's asked, how is this legal? And you ask anybody just randomly for ID? Well, no, she's saying here that it's not just random, that if you're in the area of a raid, and they have targeted, where they're going after specific people, but I haven't seen any evidence of that. Maybe they're doing that too, but they're doing a lot of blanket sweeps also. And she's now saying in this clip that that it's acceptable if you're in the area of a sweep. So, do you know for sure you won't be in the area of a sweep? I don't know that.
Today that ICE may ask people to, quote, validate their identity when asked about Americans carrying proof of citizenship. Can you clarify what exactly that means? Do American citizens, as of now, need to carry their passports or other immigration documents to show that they're citizens?
I am so glad you asked this question, because I think that there's a lot of confusion there about this. We have incredibly targeted immigration enforcement operations. So what's happening there is reasonable suspicion. If somebody is in the vicinity of this operation, of this target, then they could be asked for their identification. We've been vindicated by the Supreme Court, September of 2025. You all saw a case out of Los Angeles where they said we can use reasonable suspicion. I think I've seen a lot on this network and other places where they're talking about this is racially based. Absolutely not. Racial animus is no place in DHS and is, of course, not used. We're using what is protected under the Fourth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution.
All right, let's dive a little bit deeper into that.
Absolutely.
I'm going to play this video of a recent incident in Minnesota that has received attention.
So the way they use every law is to make it sound like they are the ones following the law, that they are just enforcing a different version, I guess, than we've ever enforced before, because she's spinning this into the Fourth Amendment search and seizure. It's just protection on citizens. It is not a right given to a federal agency, so that's a spin already. But saying that because in the Fourth Amendment, to search and seize, you must prove first a reasonable doubt, a reason, a justifiable, fact-based, evidence-based reason to search and to seize. She's saying just being in the area of a sweep, you're now caught up in that, so you can be asked.
Do you have an ID on you, ma'am?
I don't need ID to walk around in my city. This is my
Okay,
city.
do you have
This
some
is my
ID
home.
then, please?
I don't need
If
ID.
not, we're going to put you in the vehicle and we're going to ID you. Please.
I am U.S. citizen. I don't need to carry around an ID in my home.
Well,
this is my home.
Where were you born?
This is my home.
Where were you born?
Minneapolis is my home.
So that video was filmed by a woman who, as you heard, said she is a U.S. citizen. Why exactly was she stopped? Was there reasonable suspicion, which is a legal bar, as you noted, that a crime was committed in that situation? And why was he asking her, where are you born? Like, what was he basing that on?
Sure. So either this is, and I haven't seen this video before, so there could be two circumstances here. Either this is a targeted operation and she's around the vicinity of it, around the target. There's reasonable suspicion because there might be a descriptor, or she could be 5'6" and they're looking for somebody who's 5'6". That could be part of it. They're looking for somebody. That could be part of it. The other piece of it is it could be, I don't know if she was obstructing law enforcement, if she was assaulting law enforcement prior to this, but they either had those Title VIII authorities under the U.S. Code 1357 or they had that reasonable suspicion.
But what do you say to those who watch that and other videos that they're seeing themselves? I mean, this is not just the mainstream media. This is, people are seeing these videos and they're concerned that a place like Minnesota is turning into a police state and they're going up to U.S. citizens asking for ID and using
I think that there's a lot of
fear
mongering going on, I think, by the media.
But it's not, hold on, let me just correct you right there. They're watching these videos and using their independence of mind. It's not the media.
No, actually it is the media, and we're seeing it time and time again.
That was a good pushback. We are seeing the videos.
again, by saying things like the police state. What we're seeing is rampant violence against our law enforcement, highly coordinated. We have our legal authorities. When individuals see videos like that, you have to ask the question, was this individual obstructing law enforcement, which is a federal crime? Were they assaulting law enforcement, which is a felony? Were any of those instances occurring before this video was cut? Because you saw a very short cut, and that's what I'm talking about the media. There is not a lot of context that's being out there.
Then why
have to
do
be
you allow
very
ICE officers to
responsible.
wear the cameras?
We of course
then?
allow them to wear. They also
they all have. Will they all have body
we are
cameras?
working
so
on
you
that
can
with the one big beautiful bill. Actually, I think we can talk about the incident from last week where that
Hold
law
on, this
enforcement
is news,
officer,
though.
if I can finish,
Yeah.
that law enforcement officer, he actually filmed himself being obstructed by these individuals who are on the ground, who are harassing him, this vehicle being blocked in, and that actually largely vindicated him. And actually everything that DHS has said up until that point was corroborated.
Well, I mean, it hasn't been corroborated. The investigation is ongoing. The secretary came out shortly after and said that the victim here, Renee Good, was a domestic terrorist.
Yes.
And we've spoken to many experts who said at the very least, we don't have enough facts, there's not enough information, and it's too early in the investigation to make that claim. And, you know, just going back to what you say about the media, we were talking to people on the ground. And look, maybe some of them don't like ICE, they don't like law
Sure.
enforcement at all, so they could be saying this.
Yeah.
But you have to look at the polling, right? This isn't the media, this is actual polling that says, hey, I like what ICE is doing in terms of its target. We want to get criminals off the street who don't belong in the country. But 51% say ICE makes cities less safe. Just 31% say it makes cities more safe. On the Renee Good case you brought up, 26% of Americans viewed the shooting as an appropriate use of force, while 56% called it an inappropriate use of force. So are you willing to consider in some cases ICE has gone too far and is losing American support?
Pamela, in the last 5 weeks, we have arrested 2,500 criminal illegal aliens off of the streets of Minneapolis. If I can finish, if I can make my point, I appreciate you having me, but I do want to be able to make my point.
Sure.
The point of the matter is, I have not seen CNN cover who some of those individuals are. An individual from Ecuador who he murdered his 3-month-old son. An individual who's perpetuating human slavery and human trafficking, scores and scores of murders, child pedophiles. Why does the media not talk about that? We continue to see that people love to demonize law enforcement, vilify them as they're facing a 1,000% increase in assaults against them. And yet we're not talking about the great work that they're doing on the ground, the fact that they are risking their lives day in and day out to get these criminals off the ground. Gang members, known as suspected terrorists, these are all the people that we've arrested in Minneapolis. And DHS and Secretary Gnome, President Trump, have done a phenomenal job of trying to give people transparency on who we are arresting, and yet we're sitting here talking about relitigating cases over and over and over.
Well, a U.S.
again.
citizen was killed by an ICE officer.
Yes,
That's fair. I talked about the polls. It's a fair question to say, are you losing American support? But Wolf, I want to let you.
Please.
No one supports attacking or killing
No.
a
Exactly.
law
No one
enforcement
does.
officer. Nobody supports that.
But if I may say, you all have said, really laying the feet at that ICE enforcement officer. We said
I
that
said
this
it's
was
early in the
domestic.
investigation.
We said that this was domestic terrorism for a reason. This individual used a deadly weapon against our ICE law enforcement officer.
All right.
That is and will be charged. In any of the cases, we saw 15 of these cases over the past week alone in Minneapolis. Those will be charged as domestic terrorism.
When she called this 37-year-old mother of 3 who was driving that car a domestic terrorist.
Did you hear that? She's saying that they're going to charge people that are moving in their vehicle anywhere in the vicinity of a ICE officer as domestic terrorism. It could be the difference between a 5-year penalty and a life penalty. Just because they're labeling it. First of all, they're saying that it was intentional, which I doubt. But on top of that, they're saying domestic terrorism, which I've read before elsewhere, that it is not. That is not how domestic terrorism is qualified in the United States. You must be attempting to do something much grander scale, like coerce, influence, strongman by kidnapping or killing, or just, you have to be doing things to a bigger population. It's not a one-on-one situation.
That really was outrageous.
We said it was an act of domestic terrorism. In no way is that outrageous. What we saw on the ground there, she had been stalking and harassing law enforcement throughout the morning, and then she went on.
Where's the proof of that statement? Where's the proof?
To use her car as a deadly weapon. That's
She was
not,
driving by after dropping off a little 6-year-old boy
That's
at
just
school.
simply not true. I have the facts on the ground. I mean, if you look at it, for the
How
hours
much more
before,
information you can release to give the public a better understanding?
if I can give you the facts of what happened that morning, at 9:30 a.m. Central Time, this is where that incident occurred in Minneapolis. This individual, for hours before, had been stalking and harassing law enforcement, impeding operations. At the time of that incident, our law enforcement approached this individual's vehicle as she was blocking in our law enforcement. That is a federal crime. They asked her to get out of the car, to stop obstructing law enforcement. You saw from the video that her partner had been walking around harassing the law enforcement officer. Our officer was in front of her.
Okay, she decided to get out of her vehicle and stop impeding law enforcement. She couldn't do both of those things at once, so even she's giving a weird directive. So was she supposed to get out of the car or drive away?
She gunned the vehicle, and that's when things turn dangerous and deadly. If you don't listen to lawful commands of federal law enforcement, if you use your vehicle as a weapon, that is absolutely an act of domestic
Hold on
terrorism.
really quick. I mean, you just mentioned he stepped in front of the vehicle, and there is no confirmation. I mean, there have been different analysis of this vehicle, and of course, we would love more.
I want to say this too. There was a report earlier I saw that said that Renee Good was shot 4 times, not 3. Once in the arm, once in the head, and twice in the chest. She may have lived had he not continued to shoot.
Facts to fill in the picture, but she's also turning the wheel, and he did step in front of the vehicle as part of this. Is that part of the training for ICE agents during an encounter with the vehicle?
When you're trying to when they're being blocked, when you're being impeded, when
the cars were going by.
Cars were being, you're not seeing the full video, there are cars behind this individual that could not get through. So again, we're talking about manipulative editing, and
we could see it, that the ICE vehicle, the truck to her left, if you're on the driver's side, to her left, that agents get out of, they could drive around her. So if anybody's blocking a whole row of cars, it's that car, that truck.
We're only showing part of the. Pamela, there's a very simple.
Welcome any more evidence.
If I could say one thing, there's a very simple solution here. Tim Walz and Mayor Fry should let us into their jails. Those 1,400 individuals, those criminal illegal aliens who have already had their due process, let us in those jails. Let us take those murderers, those rapists, those child pedophiles out. That would simply solve the solution. Work with state and local law enforcement. That is what we're asking. Down in Florida, there's been 4.
She sounds smart, so what the hell? Either she is just really dedicated to making that money, no matter how much she has to lie.
3,000 arrests of criminal illegal aliens. We've seen peace. We've seen public safety. That's what we should be seeing across the nation.
Tricia, I want you to listen and watch what your boss, the Secretary of Homeland Security, Secretary Gnome, said yesterday alongside another video of a recent encounter in Minnesota. Listen to this.
The officers that we have out there are very highly trained and skilled, specific for the operations that they're doing. They're utilizing the most gifted individuals on these operations to go out and to do enforcement, because many times if they're going after murderers.
And we also saw that video.
99% of the time, they are not going after murderers or even criminals. Maybe a certain percent would have had a traffic violation, possibly.